Albert Einstein was not born a genius. He was born human, just like you, just like me. Born on March 14th, 1879 in Ulm, Germany. He did not speak until the age of 4, and even when he did, he spoke slowly. His teachers thought he was lazy. His mind was somewhere else, lost in the stars, lost in thought, lost in possibility. He was not a child prodigy, but he was curious, curious beyond comprehension. He asked questions, not just how, but why, not just when, but what if. While others memorized answers, he imagined new questions. He was fascinated by light, by time, by the moon. Invisible forces that govern everything. His mind worked in silence, yet his thoughts roared louder than any voice. His school considered him a failure, but the world would soon call him a prophet, a visionary. He was rejected by many, but never rejected himself. His own belief never faltered in the face of doubt. He chose wonder over fear, questions over conformity. When his teachers gave up on him, he chose to become his own teacher. His compass was imagination. His path was inquiry. His light was persistence. And he followed it even when it led him into the dark. When he held a compass at 5 years old and saw the needle move without being touched, it wasn't just magnetism that moved him. It was magic. It was mystery. It was the start of a journey that would redefine the universe. Albert Einstein failed entrance exams. He was passed over for jobs. He worked as a clerk in a patent office, not as a scientist, not as a professor, but as a man among paper and stamps. Silence. Yet in that silence, he created revolutions with a pen. Not a lab, not a team, not a title, just relentless thinking. He published 4 papers in 1905 that shattered physics. One on the photoelectric effect, one on Brownian motion, one on special relativity, and one that introduced E equals mc squared. This was his miracle year. Yet it didn't start with a miracle. It started silence. With failure and continued with persistence, he redefined energy. He redefined mass. He redefined the speed of light, not as a limitation, but as a law no one had written yet, a law he carved from thought alone. From the universe inside his mind, he wasn't trying to be famous. He was trying to understand, trying to make sense of a universe that didn't make sense at all. He saw beauty in equations, poetry in physics, freedom in logic. He wasn't building machines, he was building meaning. And that made him dangerous to the limits of science and inspiring to the dreams of humanity. When they mocked him, he smiled. When they ignored him, he worked harder. When they doubted him, he imagined bigger. And when he succeeded, he stayed humble. He said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, because knowledge is limited. But imagination encircles the world," and he meant it. He didn't want to dominate science. He wanted to liberate it. He believed in simplicity, in curiosity, in the human spirit. He was more than a physicist. He was a philosopher, a rebel, a dreamer, a truth seeker, a light chaser. And it all began not with success, but with struggle. Not with recognition, but with rejection. Not with approval, but with passion. The kind that never dies. The kind that keeps burning even when the world turns cold. He was told he'd never make it. He made the universe make sense. He was told he was slow. He moved faster than time. He was told to stay in line. He created a new dimension. He didn't accept limits. He tested them. He didn't follow paths. He made them. And you can too. Because genius is not born, it is built. It is broken, it is rebuilt. It is earned through failure, through vision, through endless resilience, through choosing the long road over the easy one and never giving up. Even when every voice tells you to give up, he was Albert Einstein, the boy who didn't speak, who changed how we speak of time, space, and reality itself. His journey started where most would stop, and that is where yours can begin. Go get it. They didn't see the hours he spent alone, thinking, not talking, not reading, not even writing, just thinking. Deep, relentless thinking. He didn't chase the spotlight. He chased clarity. He didn't want to impress. He wanted to understand. While the world slept, he wrestled with reality. While others chased approval, he chased the truth. When he worked at the patent office, they saw a clerk. He saw a canvas where his thoughts painted the laws of the universe. They gave him papers to review. He gave the world a new way to measure time, space, and energy. He had no laboratory, no team, no budget, no fame, just a brain that refused to stop asking, what if? What if time isn't absolute? What if light always moves the same speed? What if energy and mass are the same thing, wearing different masks? He thought and thought and thought, because thinking was his rebellion. Thinking was his revolution. Thinking was his freedom. While the world told him to wait, his ideas ran ahead of time itself. He didn't clock in. He broke clocks. He didn't take orders. He wrote laws. Laws that still govern galaxies. Because while most waited for permission, he created his own mission. No recognition, no applause, just discipline. His dream was his fuel. His mind was his map. His question was his compass. He didn't need permission to believe in his vision. When they laughed, he listened, not to them, but to the silence inside him, where the real answers lived. Because greatness is not born in noise. It is born in silence, in the shadows, in the quiet moments of war, between doubt and determination. He wasn't smarter. He was more stubborn, more committed, more willing to fail, until failure gave up, and success gave in. While others feared being wrong, he dared to be misunderstood, because he knew the future belongs to those who are willing to be ridiculed today. If only they stay true to their fire. His miracle year wasn't luck. It was earned in the unseen hours, forged in the fire of obsession. It wasn't just brilliance. It was bravery, the courage to think differently and keep thinking even when no one believed him. The courage to stay curious in a world that rewards conformity. The courage to ask why when everyone else says don't. The courage to live with questions until the questions start living through you. He questioned the speed of light. He questioned the clock. He questioned what the universe really is. And in doing so, he became more than a scientist. He became a symbol, a reminder that persistence beats privilege, that the ones, who change the world are not the loudest, but the most relentless. He taught us that logic is power, but imagination is liberation. And he lived it every day, not by accident, but by choice. He chose thought over fear. He chose ideas over ease. He chose purpose over popularity. And that choice made history. If you feel alone, good, so did he. If you feel behind, good, so did he. If you feel overlooked, underestimated, doubted, disrespected, good, so did he. And that means you're right where greatness begins. Not when the world accepts you, but when you accept yourself. Because the world doesn't define vision. Vision defines the world. Your struggle is not a sign to stop. It's a signal to begin, to build, to believe, to go get it. They called him crazy because he saw what they couldn't. Because he believed what they wouldn't. Because he dared to step outside the frame while the world was still trapped inside the picture. He wasn't trying to be right. He was trying to be real. His theories weren't about proving others wrong. They were about proving that more was possible. They said time is fixed. He said time is relative. They said space is empty. He said space bends. They said energy and mass are separate. He said they are the same. He wasn't contradicting science. He was evolving it. He didn't destroy the old laws. He transcended them. He didn't attack ideas. He replaced limits with possibilities. His ideas didn't come from textbooks. They came from silence, from struggle, from imagination, from trusting his own mind, even when no one else did. He didn't argue to win. He fought to free. His genius wasn't loud. It was quiet, focused, disciplined. It didn't seek validation. It sought truth, and the truth terrified those who were comfortable with what they thought they knew. When he introduced special relativity, they mocked him. When he expanded it into general relativity, they dismissed him. When his math bent space and time around gravity, they ignored him. But he didn't need them to understand. He needed to keep going because he knew breakthroughs never come from belief. They come from breaking belief, from pushing past the mental walls others never question. He didn't just rewrite equations. He rewired thought. He didn't just disrupt physics. He reshaped possibility because he saw with a different lens, the lens of wonder, the lens of courage, the lens of patience. He didn't fear being first. He feared never trying. While they laughed, he learned. While they doubted, he discovered. While they stalled, he moved. Because he knew waiting for permission is how dreams die. And he refused to let his dream decay in silence. He proved that gravity isn't a force, but the shape of space. He proved that light bends around stars, not by observing it first, but by believing in the math that others doubted. He trusted his calculations, like a warrior trusts his blade, like a sculptor trusts the chisel, like a visionary trusts the unseen. He said, if the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts. Not because he hated truth, but because he redefined it. His truth was not convenient, it was courageous. And courage is always mocked before it is celebrated. The same people who ignored him later called him genius. The same voices that rejected him quoted him. The same system that pushed him out gave him awards, medals, but none of that changed him. Because he never did it for applause. He did it for meaning, for impact, for discovery, for every mind that would come after his to see further, because he dared to think deeper. His legacy wasn't built by agreement. It was built by defiance, by questioning, not just what we see, but how. We see, and that's what you must do. If you want to break your own limits, you must go where others fear to think. Not just outside the box, but beyond it. Past the frame, past the labels, past the fear. Because genius isn't about being accepted. It's about being unshakable when no one understands. It's about being committed when the world walks away. It's about thinking different, staying different, living different, and doing it again and again until the world has no choice but to change. Go get it. He never raised his voice, but he raised the standard. He never marched into battle, but he waged war on limits. He never wore armor, but he broke through walls that no one else dared to touch. His fight wasn't with fists, it was with thought, with theory, with a mind so bold it challenged the universe itself. He wasn't trying to be powerful, he was trying to be truthful, and that truth made him unstoppable. He faced the impossible and made it possible, not through strength, but through stubbornness. Not through luck, but through relentless thinking. Every day, every hour, every moment, he was at war, not with the world, but with assumption, with comfort, with the lazy answers that most accept without question. He didn't just want to know, he needed to know. He lived in the gap between what was known and what could be known, and he made that gap his home. He welcomed doubt because he knew doubt was the beginning of clarity. He questioned gravity, questioned time, questioned the frame of reality, not to destroy it, but to understand it. And in understanding it, he changed it. He didn't look for shortcuts. He built bridges through chaos, through complexity, through the storm of ideas no one could follow. Yet he kept going because he knew that just because they couldn't see it didn't mean it wasn't real. His confidence wasn't loud, it was rooted. It came from hours of thought, from years of failure, from decades of solitude. It came from believing not in what is, but in what could be. And he held onto that vision, even when the world offered him every reason to let go. They told him the math was too complex. He made it simple. They told him the universe was too vast. He bent it with thought. They told him some questions have no answers. He answered them anyway. He wasn't trying to conquer the universe. He was trying to listen to it. And what he heard was not silence. It was music. The rhythm of light, the dance of time, the curve of space. It all made sense. Not at first, not easily, but eventually, and only because he never stopped listening, never stopped believing that the impossible was just the future misunderstood. He didn't chase fame, but it found him, because when your purpose is real, it echoes beyond time. He didn't seek attention. His work was a roar. He proved that genius is not force, it is flow, not control, but clarity, not domination, but deep, relentless curiosity. And you have that same fire within you. The storm might be quiet, but it is powerful. It is patient. It is yours, and it is waiting to be used. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Your war with the impossible starts when you stop accepting the ordinary. Starts when you challenge the rule that says you can't. Starts when you believe that thinking differently isn't just allowed, it's required. Because the ones who change the world are not the ones who are loud. They are the ones who think hardest, believe deepest, and refuse to surrender to the idea that their dream is too big. Albert Einstein was not the universe's favorite. He was the universe's student, and through study, through struggle, through silence, he rewrote everything, not with noise, but with conviction, with obsession, with the unshakable belief that truth is worth fighting for, even when it fights back. Go get it. He didn't lift mountains, but he moved the universe. He didn't command armies, but he led minds into a new dimension. He didn't build empires, he built understanding. Albert Einstein didn't chase power, he chased perspective. And in chasing it, he gave the world a new way to see everything. He looked at the sky and didn't just see stars. He saw a puzzle waiting to be solved. He saw laws waiting to be revealed, and he believed those laws didn't belong to the elite. They belonged to anyone bold enough to ask the right questions. His weapon was not a machine. It was a mind untamed by fear, unchained by tradition, and unwilling to bow to limitations. When he introduced general relativity, he didn't just redefine gravity, he redefined what was possible. He said mass bends space, time curves light, follows the curves, and the universe is not a static backdrop. It's a living fabric in motion, in tension, in dialogue with every atom, every planet, every being. And he discovered all this not in a lab, but in thought, experiments in daydreams, in moments of solitude where most people feel lost. He found clarity because he never ran from the unknown. He ran toward it. Most fear what they don't understand. He made it his mission to understand it. And in doing so, he taught us that curiosity isn't weakness. It's the purest form of courage. He showed us that to think differently is not rebellion, it's responsibility. The world told him to stay in his place. He created a new space altogether. The world told him reality has limits. He redefined reality itself. He didn't argue with gravity. He danced with it. He didn't fight the rules. He revealed deeper ones beneath them because he believed the universe wasn't chaos. It was coded. And those codes could be unlocked, not through power, but through purpose, through thinking, through staying with the question long enough to hear the answer. And that answer changed everything. It changed science. It changed war. It changed philosophy. It changed how we see the very ground beneath our feet and the sky above our heads. Because one man chose to listen to the silence between facts, to the logic behind illusion, to the whisper of reality's structure. And that choice wasn't easy. It was isolating. It was exhausting. It was filled with doubt and darkness. But he stayed in it, not for glory, but for growth. Not for legacy, but for love. The love of knowledge, the love of progress, the love of knowing that his mind could serve humanity in ways no army ever could. Didn't think to impress. He thought to elevate. He didn't speak to be heard. He spoke so others could think more clearly. He didn't chase admiration. He chased truth. And when you chase truth, the world eventually follows. He was honored with awards, but they meant nothing compared to the equations he unlocked. He was praised by nations, but all he cared about was solving the next problem because he knew the real victory wasn't the medal. It was the moment when the pieces finally fit, when the universe whispered back and said, "Yes, you're getting closer." That's what drove him. That's what guided him. That's what must guide you. Not validation, not likes, not followers, not applause, but alignment. The alignment between your mind and your mission. The alignment between your struggle and your strength. The alignment between what you're born into and what you're capable of becoming. Because like Einstein, you don't need perfect conditions. You need persistence. You don't need approval. You need obsession. You don't need to be understood. You need to stay unshakable in your pursuit. The world will resist you until it respects you. But that's only if you never stop moving, like he never stopped thinking. Go get it. He didn't chase answers. He chased questions. And when the world stopped asking, he kept asking. Why? Why is the sky blue? Why does light behave like both a wave and a particle? Why does gravity pull but never push? Why does time slow down near speed and mass? Why does the universe expand? Why do we accept limits without proof? He asked. Why not to rebel, but to reveal? Because he believed every question held the seed of a breakthrough. Every mystery was a door waiting to be opened, and he refused to stop knocking. Obsession isn't noise, it's focus. It's waking up with the same question burning in your chest and going to sleep still unsatisfied, because good enough isn't genius. He wasn't satisfied with the surface. He wanted the source. He didn't just want the how, he wanted the why. And that made all the difference. Most people stop at what is. He reached for what could be. While others memorized, he questioned. While others repeated, he challenged. While others settled, he searched. Because he knew comfort kills clarity. And the moment you stop asking is the moment you stop growing. He didn't fear confusion, he fed off it. Confusion meant he was close to something real, something raw, something that hadn't been seen before. And that space between confusion and clarity, that was his home, his lab, his battlefield. And he didn't back down from it. Not when he was ignored, not when he was ridiculed, not when he was dismissed. Because the truth doesn't need permission, it needs persistence. And persistence was his greatest weapon. It wasn't his IQ, it was his fire. It wasn't his genius, it was his grit. The ability to sit with a question longer than anyone else. The ability to think past the deadline, past the pressure, past the doubt. The ability to trust that if he stayed long enough, if he stayed true enough, something would emerge. And it did, over and over and over again. Breakthroughs built on nothing but stubborn thought. Because he didn't treat thinking like a task. He treated it like training, like a mission, like a discipline. He thought with intensity. He thought with urgency. He thought like his life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. He knew a single idea could change everything, and he wasn't going to leave that idea buried inside him. He was going to dig until it revealed itself. And when it did, it didn't just change his life, it changed every life. Because one idea, one insight, one perspective has the power to bend reality. And he proved it, not once, not twice, but again and again. Because his obsession was unbreakable, his why was unshakable. And that's what you need. Not motivation, but obsession. Not hype, but hunger. Not inspiration, but intention. To wake up and pursue your why like the world depends on it, because it does. The future depends on your questions, not your answers. The breakthrough depends on your curiosity, not your comfort. Your greatness depends on your willingness to be misunderstood, to be doubted, to be different, and still show up, to still ask, to still push, to still go deeper, like Einstein did in the quiet. In the questions, in the relentless search for. Why go get it? He had no roadmap, no mentor, no legacy to lean on, no footsteps to follow. He didn't inherit brilliance, he built it. He wasn't guided by a system, he was ignored by it, rejected by it, underestimated by it. But that didn't stop him, it shaped him. The absence of a guide forced him to become one. The silence of the world forced him to speak through thought, through theory, through relentless imagination. He didn't have support, but he had vision. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not praise, not protection, not privilege. Just a picture in your mind of something no one else can see and the discipline to chase it alone. When he couldn't afford a lab, he turned his mind into one. When he wasn't allowed into academic circles, he created his own orbit. When they shut doors, he built new entrances. He didn't ask for the world to make room, he carved space for himself in history. Because he understood something most never learn. You don't need the system's permission to matter. You don't need credentials to contribute. You don't need a degree to define reality. You need hunger. You need obsession. You need fire. And he had it. Every setback became fuel. Every rejection became redirection. Every insult became ignition. They said you're just a patent clerk. He said, watch this. And in the shadows of that desk, he rewrote the laws of the universe, not to prove them wrong, but to prove that truth is louder than doubt, that vision is stronger than judgment, that discipline can outshine any degree. He didn't climb the ladder, he built his own. He didn't wait for recognition, he waited for results, because he knew results speak louder than titles, louder than critics, louder than gatekeepers. And his results echoed through time, through every equation, every innovation, every mind that dares to think differently today. Because one man refused to be boxed in, labeled out, or counted out. He didn't need approval, he needed a challenge. And life gave him plenty, and he took them all, not as burdens, but as blueprints. Each one showing him where not to go and where he must break through. His path was not paved, it was cut through resistance, carved through rejection, walked in solitude. And that's why it matters. That's why it inspires. Because he didn't just make it, he made it without help. And that means so can you. No mentor, no money, no connections, no map. Good. You don't need them. You need clarity. You need commitment. You need that one spark that won't let you quit, even when no one claps, even when no one calls, even when nothing around you says you're winning. Because the win is not external, it's internal. It's showing up, it's pushing forward, it's thinking anyway, building anyway, trying anyway, again and again, until effort becomes evidence and belief. Becomes breakthrough like it did for him. Your limits are not your truth, they're your test, and how you respond decides your legacy. He had no path, so he made one. You have no excuses, so go make yours, go get it. He said imagination is more important than knowledge because he lived it, he proved it. While others relied on memory, he relied on vision. While they quoted books, he questioned them. While they memorized formulas, he dreamed in universes that didn't exist yet. Imagination was not his escape, it was his engine. It was how he explored what math couldn't reach yet. Science hadn't caught up to what reality hadn't made room for, and he wasn't afraid of being wrong. He was afraid of never reaching far enough, never stretching wide enough, never daring deep enough. He imagined riding on a beam of light, while the world said that was nonsense. He imagined gravity not as a force, but as a bend in space, and they said that was nonsense. Fantasy, until the math proved it was fact. He imagined a universe that wasn't fixed, but flexible. Not passive, but participatory. And that vision changed everything, because vision always comes before validation. He didn't wait for evidence to believe. He believed and then created the evidence. He didn't sit back and wait for the world to make sense. He made the world make sense through thought, through trust, through the wild, relentless power of imagination. While others were confined by what is, he expanded into what if. And that one shift unlocked everything he saw. Dimensions inside dimensions. Realities layered under realities. Truths hidden in questions no one thought to ask. And he had the courage to follow those questions, to live inside them, to stay with them. Not for hours, but for decades. Because he knew imagination isn't childish. It's cosmic. It's creation. It's the blueprint of every breakthrough that ever was and ever will be. The light bulb. was once imagination. The rocket was once imagination. The internet was once imagination. So was relativity. So was quantum mechanics. So was every single world-changing concept that ever dared to defy the status quo. And he dared more than anyone. He didn't just think differently, he thought beyond thinking. He merged logic with wonder, calculation with curiosity, precision with play. And that's what made him unstoppable. Not his brain, but his bravery. Not his facts, but his faith in the unseen. He saw imagination as a responsibility, not a distraction. Because the future lives inside minds, willing to imagine what's never been done. Willing to risk being ridiculed for what might be right. Willing to see the invisible and trust it anyway. While the world waits for proof, visionaries build it. And he was a builder, not of machines, but of mental revolutions. And his revolution reshaped science, reshaped time, reshaped how we think about thought. And that's point. Your invitation to, not just to think harder, but to imagine deeper. Not just to learn, but to dream. Not just to follow, but to invent. Because your mind is not a container, it's a creator. And when you choose to unleash it, when you choose to feed it, not with limits, but with possibilities, you become dangerous to mediocrity. You become untouchable by doubt, unstoppable by fear. Because you're not living from memory, you're living from imagination. And that's where real greatness is born. In the visions the world laughs at before they applaud. In the ideas that seem absurd until they become obvious in the moments where you trust what no one else can see yet and move forward anyway. Like Einstein did, day after day, year after year, building a future with nothing but mind and belief. Go get it. He wasn't in a race against others. He was in a race against time, against silence, against the crushing weight of not knowing, and the relentless pull to find out more. He knew every second mattered, not because he feared death, but because he respected the moment. He knew ideas didn't wait for convenience. They arrived in flashes, in fragments, and he caught them like fireflies in the dark. Not always complete, not always clear, but always powerful, always demanding attention. And he gave them that attention, not later, not someday, now. Because he knew the longer you wait, the colder the vision gets. He lived with urgency, not panic, urgency, not pressure, purpose. And that purpose was louder than comfort, louder than doubt, louder than fear. When they told him he was too slow, too strange, too far out, he didn't flinch. He kept calculating, kept dreaming, kept bending space and time with a pen and paper and belief. He wasn't loud, but his mind screamed into the future. He wasn't fast, but he moved ideas at the speed of light because he refused to let the moment pass, wasted. He knew the clock was ticking, but he didn't watch it. He beat it by staying ready, by thinking always, by pushing past fatigue into flow, past rejection into obsession, past logic into brilliance. And when the world questioned him, he questioned deeper. When it denied him, he defied harder. When it resisted him, he resisted back, not with fists, but with thought. And he knew doubt wasn't the enemy. Apathy was. Because doubt meant you were alive, meant you were awake, meant you were thinking. But apathy, that was the killer, the quiet end to potential. And he refused to go quiet. He refused to fade into the noise of mediocrity. He burned through his days with thought, with theory, with art, relentless mental fire. And when others waited for the world to change, he changed the world by never waiting, by thinking now, by acting now, by being relentless in pursuit of truth, even when that truth felt out of reach, because he believed even the most complex problems could be solved if you stared at them long enough, if you stayed with them long. Enough if you didn't blink when the weight got heavy and the night got long and the doubt got loud, and you stayed anyway, stayed committed, stayed locked in, stayed chasing, stayed breaking, stayed building. And that's what separates the remembered from the forgotten. Not talent, not luck, not even timing, but tenacity. Tenacity to keep pressing when no one's clapping, to keep thinking when no one's watching, to keep creating when nothing makes sense yet. And when you do that, when you lock in for years with no reward, no applause, no guarantees, only fire inside and silence. Outside, eventually, something breaks through, not just in the world, but in you, and that shift is irreversible. You become different. You become dangerous to limits, allergic to excuses, immune to average, because now you're not driven by outcome. You're driven by obsession, by discipline, by the same force that drove Einstein when he was nobody, with nothing but an idea and a will that wouldn't break. That's what it takes. That's what it means to move reality forward, to bend time with thought, to push past reason and into legacy. Go get it. He didn't aim to be remembered. He aimed to matter. And in doing so, he became unforgettable. He didn't try to leave a legacy. He tried to live one in real time. Not in the pages of history, but in the pulse of now. Because he knew legacy is not built in hindsight. It's built in the moment, in the discipline of your thoughts, in the fire of your effort, in the choices you make when no one sees, when no one claps, when the room is silent and your mind is loud. He chose the hard way, the slow way, the lonely way, the way without fame, without ease, without guarantees. But that's why it mattered, because it was real, because it cost him something, because it demanded everything. Not a version of him, not a brand, not a performance, but the core, the mind, the man, the soul, and he gave it all. He didn't save his best for later. He poured it into every point. Every page, every theory, every breakthrough. And in doing so, he gave the world more than answers. He gave it permission. Permission to think, to question, to imagine, to break rules, to seek truth, to chase wonder, to believe in something bigger than titles, degrees, or expectations. He gave us proof that one human with enough clarity and obsession can shift the entire trajectory of science, of society, of thought itself. And that proof is not in museums, it's in minds, in every thinker who dares to go deeper, in every problem solver who stays longer, in every student who asks why instead of memorizing, how in every visionary who keeps imagining when the world tells them to stop. That's the ripple effect of a life fully lived, of a mind that refused to settle, of a heart that burned not for success, but for significance. And now it's your turn, not to copy him, but to continue, not to imitate, but to embody, not to idolize, but to ignite, because the world doesn't need more legends. It needs more leaders, more thinkers, more dreamers, more people who stay in the fire until the idea becomes reality, until the vision becomes proof, until the unseen becomes undeniable. You are not here to repeat history. You are here to reshape it, like he did, with thought, with will, with belief, and with the quiet daily decision to keep going when it's hard to think, when it's easier to escape, to imagine when it's safer to follow, to build when it's easier to talk. Discipline and launched through legacy, not because you waited, but because you worked. Because you didn't just live time, you bent it. You didn't just think thoughts, you weaponized them. You didn't just exist, you exploded into purpose. That's the call, that's the mission, that's the end and the beginning. Now it's on you. The next thought, the next question, the next light beam, the next legacy. Go get it.